It's Friday. Welcome to BOMAQtalk. I'm Tammy Bukhali, and this is the first episode of a multi-part series that continues to grow and grow in applicable content. So, what is digital identity? The AI augmented asset ecosystem, the trail you don't see, right? This subject matter touches every single business owner, manager, or administrator. And it's something that almost nobody manages intentionally until something goes wrong, right? So, your digital identity is more than your social media presence, more than your personal or business brand. The actual technical, legally significant digital footprint that you create, accumulate, and leave behind every time you work, right? The passwords, the files, the email chains, the access credentials, the confidential records, the code you wrote, the client decks you built, the Slack messages you sent at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, right? All of it is a digital asset. All of it belongs somewhere to you, to your business, to your client, in some cases, your employer. All of it has a life cycle, and most of it is being managed reactively, accidentally, and badly if it's being managed at all, right? And so we're there too. We're there too. We're even as management consultants, we have areas to which we can improve. So we're going to BOMAC talk it out, right? Um, so this revised series, right, adding AI into uh, asset lifecycle management, didn't exist a few years ago. That footprint now includes AI, the API keys that connect your tools to large language models, the library you refined over months into proprietary intellectual property, right? We got all these prompt libraries. And then the AI meeting summaries, transcribing your most sensitive client conversations, right? They're like, can I get that conversation? Do I want to be recorded in that conversation? Am I in that meeting? Do I want to be transcribed? Do I want to be recorded? And if so, who does that meeting belong to, right? Um, all these metrics of scores being generated about your performance, your interest, um, your activity online, right? And so the vector database storing your firm's institutional memory inside a third party model, right? So today, all of this is part of this conversation, and each one of those can take a segment of their own, right? So today we're going to try to build, you know, a map, a map of how to create a map that provides an infrastructure, right? That's what we do, frameworks and infrastructures. We try to put all these pieces together in a way that we can comprehend it, put it into a process to which we can implement it, right? So we're going to try to pull that together in these sessions, right? So um, or at least the makings of it, right? The makings of it. We'll probably revise it as we go. But in any case, as shown previously, there will be four categories, each with an AI extension, eight subcategories, five life cycle stages, two lenses, yours and an individual, and your firms as the steward of everyone on the team, right? So yours as an individual and your firms as the steward of uh, and oversight, having oversight over the business and everyone who works on your project team, right? And everyone you come in interaction with in terms of clientele, right? So, all right, let's have at it. We charted those four categories, right? Trying to define the digital or putting those digital assets into categories. And so um, let's kind of give it the book definition, right? It's a digital asset is any valuable digital file or footprint linked to a person's identity. That definition holds. What's changed is the scope. Assets tied to a professional identity now include the ones AI creates on your behalf, the infrastructure that makes AI work, and every log that records what AI systems did in that name. The framework, um, the four original categories now each have an AI specific extension. So let's kind of walk through those um, in a little bit more detail. We kind of showed the chart last session, last Friday, um, as an introductory, uh, some introductory context, right? Um, just kind of run through what these categories include um, in a little bit more detail, right? So category one, access credentials plus AI agents. When we look at ComCore 8, and as we move forward, the access credentials, there's uh, a open password. No matter what you put in there, it lets you in to preview ComCore 8. But as we start to monetize that particular product, we will provide um, uh, uh, passport requirements and um, uh, authentication requirements, right? And so um, that would be in category one. Um, the original category covers passwords, MFA tokens, single sign-on profiles, digital certificates, SSH keys, API tokens. These are the keys to the kingdom, access points that allow an identity to reach into systems and data. The risk, though, is mismanaging these is immediate and severe. Um, Immediate and severe unauthorized access, data breach, and security compromise are the biggest risks, right? So that already exists. That is already something that needs to be managed in category one. Um, but then AI adds AI agent authentication tokens, large language model system integrations, and persona certificates. When you connect Claude, which ComCore 8 does, a GPT model, or any other AI system to your firm's infrastructure, that connection requires credentials. And those credentials are category one assets. They need to be provisioned, managed, rotated, and revoked with the same rigor as any SSH key or an admin password. And if some of these terms aren't familiar to you, some of them aren't easily um, definable to me as well. So some of these uh, we unless we have actually implemented ourselves, like we're going to do with the passwords and connecting Claude and those types of things. Um, uh, that is my learning style, actually putting into practice, actually performing that activity. Um, then it could, uh, then those terms or whatever, I might forget what those are. I might forget what those are, right? So it's okay. We have AI now. You can plug those in, find out what those things are and how they're applicable to your particular situation, right? Um, which ones would be best in a particular uh, situation, right? So combined description, right? Now these are the keys to the kingdom. These are the access points and agentic permissions that allow an identity, human or AI, to reach into systems and data, right? So, um, again, the risk profile, category one, and while we were slow to uh, in this category for Concord 8 is that unauthorized access, data breaches, right? We put in some dummy data in there just to demonstrate how Concord 8 would work. But actually having clients or um, project team members utilize Concord 8, um, we had to assess the risk. Um, and for category one, it's unauthorized access, data breaches, the API, AI prompt injection, and exploits, um, having that expertise so that AI permissions aren't mismanaged, which will create severe risks. um, the hallucinating data leaks or unauthorized actions, right? Um, Unauthorized AI model manipulation, and some of that data scraping, right? Uh, so AI credentials aren't not they're not passive keys. Um, they those AI edge a they those AI agents act on an activity, at machine speed, right? So, um, uh, to catch those, AI, we talked about AI, auditing AI, because you need, if AI agents are acting at machine speed, you need to match that intensity, right? So, um, but that's category one. Category two, work products plus AI generations, right? So uh, the original category, covers those client deliverables, spreadsheets, code repositories, strategy decks, design assets, and intellectual property stored in cloud drives. We don't use the cloud, we still use hard disks, um, uh, um, external drives. However, if you um, all of the uh, data that you archive um, annually, quarterly, or how whatever frequency to which you archive your data, right? So these are the outputs of the work, of the projects, of the service, and the product delivery um, that created some kind of value. And so the risk is ownership, uh, ambiguity, data leakage between clients, and loss of institutional knowledge when an identity leaves, right? So uh, this happens just with human built project teams, right? And so with AI, um, it adds um, these AI generated synthetic media, proprietary prompt libraries. This is what it includes now: fine-tuned models, custom trained weights and checkpoints, those training data sets, those knowledge bases, databases, AI generated source code, or in all of the design variations, right? So we have accumulated a lot of those as well. Um, and so this combined description uh, increases the number of outputs, as we are working faster, and hopefully we are producing more. And so more, and that is definitely the case for us at Urbane Tectonics. We have more output, um, and the outputs of the work and the creative value um, that accompanies that. This now includes both human-made IP and the training data prompts or synthetic assets produced by AI, right? So AI may do part of the work, and then you come in and modify it, um, make it specifically fit the situation. And so you have a team effort on that particular um, piece of work, right? Um, and so these prompt libraries, the expertise, the now prompt engineers now a role. And so the ability to be able to articulate um, to uh, a specific task is now a great skill set, right? Be able to articulate yourself, right? And so we've talked much about AI has helped us articulate better a lot of the concepts, ideas, and content to which we want to deliver is very useful in that respect, right? So the prompt library deserves specific attention because if you have a well-developed prompt library, which lots of folks are pulling those things together, and we haven't really gotten there yet. We have a prompt library, but it's more or archives of prompts that we used. It's not really a developed prompt library, right? So we haven't got there yet. So the refined, tested, iterated prompts that consistently produce these in a repetitive basis, high value outputs for a specific client or industry or business area or practice area is considered institutional knowledge, and it's actually uh, lots of folks are using it as products or a service offering as well. It represents um, these hundreds of hours of experimentation, right? So we're uh, as we are building, we have lots to build. We have lots to build, right? Um, uh, we may be able to probably write a book on our prompts once we're done, once we're done with it, but we haven't got to that point yet, right? So um, that experimentation embodies you know, the firm's methodology, voice, and standards. It's the firm's AI brain, right? So most organizations are not treating it as a governed asset, and some are, right? And that's the governance failure with real financial consequences, right, in this category. And so, uh, to reiterate, the risk profile for category two is that ownership uncertainty over the AI generated content, those data leakage between clients and loss of institutional knowledge, AI hallucination entering into the workflow, and these unwarranted attacks, right? Um, Contamination from public training data and lack of clarity over generated copyright ownership. The copyright question is unsettled in most jurisdictions and is being litigated actively, right? And so, um, uh, stay tuned. Stay tuned on some of these things, right? And so, this where it becomes really important to balance that asset produced by AI with human skill sets, right? Um, Rework it over so it could never look like something that is similar to uh, a prompt library output somewhere else, right? So, um, category three, communication trails plus AI context, right? And so the original category covers email archives, chat histories across Slack and Teams, the recorded video calls, and shared calendars. These are the documented history of decisions, relationships, and commitments. We advisory board, our meetings, the content produced at those meetings. Some of that is still readily available to former advisory board members. I've checked and the link still works, stuff like that. So that those communication trails are still there even after 5 or so years, right? For some of the formal advisory boards members. And so this risk is legal, in litigation. Communications are discoverable and operational. When key people leave, the context embedded in their communication trail often goes with them, right? Or does it? In most cases, if you get locked out of your uh, uh, the platforms that host these types of communications, then uh, you don't have access to it unless it's been you've been given that it has been given public access, or you made a copy of it, or you created a duplicate of some kind. Um, and this could happen too with hybrid working situations where you may be utilizing uh, different hardware uh, than the hardware at work. And so there's duplicates there when you just log in from another computer outside of um, off campus, um, uh, accessing the network to do something really quick. And so there's some duplicate communication trail that you utilized or had access to during that particular session, right? AI adds the AI meeting note taker transcripts. Every time we open up Zoom or we attend a meeting, someone's in there doing note taker transcript, more than likely, right? There's some gatherings and groups that are more in social setting, faith-based or whatever, that don't uh, have that, or it's not proper etiquette to do that. So you may not see that. Um, but now that's the norm, right? Automated executive summaries, chatbot interaction logs, virtual assistant um, participants or schedules, AI translated communication threads, in these databases of conversational memories, right? And so this combined description here now is this complete documented history of decisions, relationships, and commitments. What was said, what was decided. um, uh, our email is now summarizing, giving you an AI summary as you are emailing back and forth. It's giving you a summary of your conversation, email conversation, um, as you are going back and forth. And so this now um, includes the digitized context AI ingest to understand institutional history, right? And so I may forget some of the communication, but AI is beginning to come to its own understanding, even outside of what I've given it formally, right? So when an AI note taker transcribes a sensitive client strategy session, that transcript is a category 3 communication asset with all the legal and operational implications of a human written record, right? Um, um, Plus any new AI specific ones, right? So um, again, the risk profile for category 3 is that legal uh, litigation piece. Um, Storing sensitive proprietary context in third-party AI models, creating this data, severe data privacy, and IP leakage risk. Um, and there could be accidental ingestion of confidential conversations into public LLM training sets if profiles aren't set correctly, right? So there's a risk there. And then legal discovery complications around the accuracy um, of AI generated meaning summaries, right? So as it's transcribing, you've experienced this probably in some of our videos and some of our shorts, as it's transcribing, it's spelling words wrong, it's getting sentence structure all incorrect. Um, and so uh, there, just like there is human error, there can be AI error, inaccurate information that is being uh, generated within these summaries, right? And so you have to watch for that as well in this category. Okay. Um, Last but not least, category 4, corporate footprint, uh, plus the AI logs. And so the original category covers HR profiles, payroll records, expense history, training certifications and certificates, background check data. And I would put also all subcontractor, uh, vendor, um, vendors, subcontractors, subconsultants, suppliers in this category as well. Anyone who's on the project team will have some kind of trail within this category, right? And so these are the administrative record of the identities or business relationship with the institution, right, or with the firm. And so the risk is primarily, um, uh, you know, uh, retention laws, how long this data must be kept and how it must be destroyed, right? And so it's that privacy, security, um, types of issues in there. So you have a good working relationship within the project team, right? And so AI adds um, in the AI system interaction logs, compliance and governance, um, auditing for the records, um, performance, HR performance evaluations, or hiring, um, how those algorithms are actually doing that. So that it's there's legal oversight there. Um, AI-driven performance review analytics, automated recruitment screening scores, and that uh, was being used way before AI, disrupted all of the industries here recently, right? So um, productivity tracking metrics and predictive assessments, right? And so AI is adding um, uh, those items to this particular category. And those combined, um, now we have this complete administrative record of the identities, whether it's digital, uh, brand, human, AI, business, or individual, um, identities, relationship with the institution, plus the operational logs of AI systems interacting with that identity, right? Every AI generated assessment um, of a person's or business's performance, productivity, um, or potential is a category for AI log asset, right? And so um, just to reiterate it, the risk in these areas are regulatory and compliance hurdles, those ethics and transparency regulations, um, over how to the algorithms evaluating human employees, the data retention laws, on how long those interaction logs must be kept or destroyed, um, and then the legal exposure from bias training, right? And that might come with HR algorithms, whether automated or AI, right? All right, so those are the four categories, um, the framework to which we are uh, utilizing in this conversation, right? And so, um, in those four categories, let's shift now to the ecosystem. The ecosystem. Uh, we kind of pinpoint what those categories are, and within those categories, there are subcategories. And we're introducing this 8 subcategory framework And why this matters because these categories interact in the most significant uh, oversight and governance failures um, that are being found uh, occur at the intersection points, not inside a single category, right? It's the movement in between the two, or when combining um, different assets within a category um, uh, when utilize them in a process, right? So in the process of conducting the work, um, you have these intersection points um, in between assets and categories, right? So here's the scenario that's happening right now in organizations that have deployed AI tools without thinking through the identity governance implications. A consultant joins, right? We're a management consultant. We have consultant services. We have managed services. Um, Day one, um, uh, we also have subcontractors and sub-consultants, right? And so let's say a sub-consultant joins. Day one, they receive, um, uh, and this is for my consultants out there, most sub consultants, whether they only own a company or whatever, so they really don't need uh, access credentials to your firm's platform. But say, for instance, we're utilizing a project team uh, platform of some sort, and so day one, they receive access. They've been selected to be on the project team. Um, they receive access credentials, um, including any modern AI integrated um, uh, API credentials for the firm's AI tools, right? So category one, now with the AI agent layer, over the next 2 years, they use those credentials to create work products, including a sophisticated prompt library for their primary client engagement. Category two, AI generation. While doing that work, their client conversations are transcribed by an AI note taker. Category three, AI context. Their performance is monitored by AI productivity tool, within the platform. Category four, um, AI log. They leave. Standard offboarding deactivates the email or deactivates the access, right? Um, uh, and all of the software, hardware credentials associated with their granted, access credentials granted as being part of the team, right? So, um, but the API credentials are not in the credential management system because nobody registered them. The prompt library lives in a personal AI account that they were utilizing while working on the project team. The meeting transcripts are stored in a third-party note-taker platform under the sub-consultant's personal login. The AI productivity data has been retained indefinitely because nobody set a deletion policy, right? And so, um, and this is an actual, scenario that could happen even with in hybrid situations, even prior to AI, right? So AI actually amplifies a problem that already exists, right? And so None of those assets disappear because the person did. They proliferate. So some are exposed, some are inaccessible to the firm, some are retained past their legal obligation. This is the default outcome of AI tools deployed without identity governance. Um, right? And so it could be an afterthought. Um, we're trying to build the alternative kind of. We're a planner. We got a plan to the plan and a backup plan to the backup plan, right? And so um, uh, without getting analysis paralysis, the framework, four categories: access credentials, work products, communication trails, corporate footprint. Every professional identity generates assets in all four, and now generates AI layer assets in all four. The management requirements of each are different. The interaction points between them are where the most serious risks live, right? Okay, so let's share a couple examples that can kind of break it down in layman's terms so you can see where it's applicable um, in industry and then um, and domestically, right? And so uh, conceptually, think of instead of thinking of a digital identity as just a password, right? It is a password, but just as a password, think of it as a digital passport that every person, device, and digital assistant uses to interact online, right? And so um, let's take the smart home. We have our calm environments. Cube Engineered Solutions has a service and product called Calm Environments that caters to smart technology and smart technology solutions, right? So take the smart home um, and the diagram process of the smart home network, right? Um, the human resident, of course, is the user. Uh, the smart fridge and all other smart equipment are the physical assets, right? In ComCore 8, all those assets would be listed. And the AI energy monitor, right? That this is the AI agent. Um, all of these, the user, the physical asset, and the AI agent will have their own specific identity tags, ID tags, right? Will have their own digital identity. Um, and so this asset ecosystem in action show how these identities communicate, how the whole system operates. When the fridge, if you have that fridge, say your fridge is going to order some milk and it adjusts its cooling, it's acting as a digital identity to actually do that. Um, you're like, okay, who ordered the milk? Who adjusted the cooling? The user didn't do it, right? Um, the AI agent may have not did it. It could have been, it's a smart fridge, so the physical asset actually did it on its own. So if it's frozen, it's too cold, or it's ordering the wrong milk, you're going to that specific ID, the physical assets to correct it, right? So um, the AI agent reviews your calendar or perhaps your personal profile as to how you like your milk, or um, uh, how the fridge should be cooling. Um, and now you're out of town, and um, and so it may make some decisions where those two intersect or interact. Um, then it has some permissions that the refrigerator does not have. Um, it authorizes the smart lock to let the delivery driver in because you order groceries, right? And so um, this is the system kind of integrating and overlapping. Um, and just like when you have humans on a particular project team, there could be overlap um, within the role definitions. So the takeaway from this particular example is that a digital identity is not just a human profile. It is a secure, automated handshake between these autonomous AI workers and everyday devices within your digital ecosystem, right? And so, all right, let's give another example that would be applicable to some of the work uh, we see or within the industries we serve. Um, this one being construction and development asset ecosystem, right? And so conceptually, a digital identity is an employee login, but it's not just an employee login. It is a secure, automated digital passport assigned to every worker, heavy machine, smart building sensor, and AI assistant on your project, right? And so, um, construction and real estate development examples may include like a smart excavator and access control, where it has its own digital identity. When a subcontractor logs into the machine, the excavator verifies the operator's identity, cross-references it with the live Procore schedule, and checks if their safety certification is valid. If everything matches, it unlocks the ignition automatically, right? The BIM the field tracker, right? This is 3D BIM, building information modeling. If you are familiar with AutoCAD, computer aided design drafting, these are buildings, digital twins, twin technology, where you have a digital twin of a physical asset, whether it be a building, piece of equipment, a bridge. Um, and this 3D BIM, building, abbreviated from building information model, acts as a living identity. Um, field sensors on, like field sensors on a concrete pour communicate their temperature and curing data directly back to the model, which automatically triggers the next trade's scheduling alert, right? Um, and then the administrative virtual assistant, your automated invoice processing tool, has its own digital ID. It securely logs into the company's banking portal to verify routing numbers against a master vendor list before drafting a subcontractor payout, right? And so these are areas within a workflow or within um, a service delivery process that uh, these digital IDs um, are now part of. that asset ecosystem. Right. And so let's step back from the framework and make a quick argument about framing. Framework, framing, right? The assets we've just been describing are not just files and records. They are the digital representation of a person's professional existence, right? A business owner's organizational existence, right? Um, in aggregate, they constitute an identity, right? The AI layer makes this more personal, not less. When an AI system generates assessments of productivity, communication patterns, it's making claims about identity, whether it's organizational or individual. When a vector database stores a compressed model of your institutional knowledge and decision-making patterns, it's representing um, the firm. When your prompt library is treated as organizational IP rather than personal IP, a fundamental question about the ownership of your creative intelligence is being answered by default, not by design, right? And so um, there is this varying issue there between organization and personal. For individuals, knowing what your digital identity contains, including its AI layer, is the first step toward managing it intentionally. You cannot govern what you haven't mapped, right? So for owners, managers, and administrators, um, the firm's leaders, the people in your organization are stewards of their own digital identities, which happen to intersect with their firm's systems during their stay or participation on your project teams or employment well within your firm. Managing those identities well is not just an IT function. It is an oversight, governance, responsibility, um, accountability, and increasingly legal obligation, right? So the life cycle framework governs everything else in this series, 5 stages: creation, usage, modification, exiting, and retention. Each stage now has an AI specific dimension. In the next hour, uh, the first Friday, second hour, we start at stage 1, the moment of onboarding, and we show why the provisioning decisions made on day 1 now include 8 decisions, not 3, and why the ones most organizations are skipping create the most expensive problems down the life cycle. So let's take a break, come back in the next hour. That would be the next video um, in the series, and we'll continue the conversation talking about the 5 stations. All right, BOMAQ Talk.